I have always hated going to the park. And it's not because I don't like nature or anything like that. It's because I can't stand the sight of people playing with their pets. It just makes me want to throw up. Now, I know you might be asking, why would anyone not like the sight of cute dogs and cats? But after hearing this morbid experience, you too will never look at animals the same. My name is Taylor, and this horrific experience happened 6 years ago. I was 21 at the time, and I had just finished college. It was on a Thursday, and I had gone to the supermarket across from my apartment to buy some groceries. I barely had up to $10, so I bought very few things. As I walked up to the counter, I saw the cashier Jake staring at me. We weren't friends, but we knew each other as I lived close by. As I dropped the few things I bought, he looked at me and said, "I don't mean to pry, Taylor, but are you low on cash?" I didn't reply as I was embarrassed. He then looked at me with kind eyes and said, "It's nothing to be ashamed about, Taylor, but if you're up for it, I may have a job for you." Hearing being offered a job piqued my interest, and I asked, "What am I going to be doing and how much is the pay?" He then told me, "We can talk about what you're going to be doing later, and regarding the pay," he then brought out $1,000 and handed it to me. I was stunned as I hadn't seen money like that in a while. He then continued with, "Think of it as an advance. But remember, with pay like this, the job is pretty something." He then asked for my number so that he could get back to me with more details regarding the job. A week passed before I heard from Jake. I had already spent $700 of the $1,000, so I knew I had to do the job now as I had already spent my pay. But I just assumed it was going to be something like cleaning the supermarket. That night around 3 a.m., I got a message from Jake saying, "Ready to know what the job is about?" I remember telling him, "It's pretty late, but sure." That's when he told me to download something called Tor browser. I was confused, but I did exactly what he said. After that, he sent me a link and he told me, "I don't know if you've heard of the dark web, Taylor, but this is a link to the dark web." He then continued with, "This link is going to take you to a website where you'll see videos of women eating. Think of it as ASMR, but with a more serious take on it." He then sent the last message saying, "This is just to prepare you for what you're going to be doing. And remember, that much money doesn't come easy. You start next week." And with that, he went offline. Now, a little feeling of dread began to creep up as he was acting so weird. And as I clicked the link, I finally understood what he meant as a horrific realization dawned on me. The link took me to a site called All Natural. The first thing I saw was a slogan that read, "Welcome fellow true eater." I was asked to pay $20 to see the content, which I did, and when the page finally loaded, it showed videos of women eating raw animals. The first video I played showed a huge man holding a cage, seemed to be filled with kittens. I could hear the animals whimpering like they were scared. The woman in the video sat on a chair and she had a sick, devilish grin on her face, which displayed her blood-stained, rotten teeth. She looked like she was terribly ill as she looked pale and feverish. The man then took one of the kittens, and what he did next made me throw up on myself. With his huge hands, I watched him tear the kitten apart. It happened so fast that I couldn't hear the kitten squeal. He then tossed the carcass of the dead kitten towards the woman, and without hesitation, she began eating it raw. The sight was otherworldly as she ate it whole. I could see the little organs of the kitten spilling out of her bloody mouth as she ate it. It didn't take long before there was nothing left and the video ended. I screamed and I threw my phone away when the video was done. The noise had garnered the attention of my neighbor, who knocked on my door asking, "Taylor, are you all right?" I didn't want him to know about what just happened, so I quickly replied, "It's fine. I just thought I saw something." And with that, he left. I didn't fall asleep that night as I was deep in thought. I finally understood why Jake didn't tell me about the job before paying. And I understood why it paid so much, as over 15 million people paid to watch each video. I knew I had messed up, as I couldn't do it, and I also couldn't pay back the money. So the next day, I started avoiding Jake and the supermarket. After a week, I thought I had gotten away with it. But as I walked to my apartment that night, I was attacked by two huge men. And the last thing I remember is a white handkerchief being forced onto my nose. I woke up in front of a camera. I was surrounded by bright standing lights, which made it impossible for me to make out my surroundings. A huge man walked in, and with one look at him, all my suspicions were clear, as he was the man who tore animals apart in those horrific videos. And right after him, Jake walked in with a sick grin on his face. "Why are you avoiding my calls, Taylor?" I was scared, but I immediately replied with, "I didn't mean to. I can't do this." "Then do you have my money?" he asked. Fear filled me as I had already spent half of it, but I said the first thing that popped into my head. "I don't, but I'll pay you back. I promise. Please, just let me go." "I'm afraid we can't do that," he said. "So what are you going to do to me?" "I don't want to eat the insides of animals. That's disgusting. Disgusting," he screamed before slapping me hard across my face. "We are true eaters. Like the lions, we eat the right way, directly from nature. We don't let our meals be tainted by heat. We keep it all natural." Once he was done, I asked him, "So, you guys are cannibals?" And that's when he hit me again. "Don't associate us with cannibals, you dumb whore. Me and the 15 million people who tune in to see these videos are much more than that. We are enlightened. We are true eaters." I didn't speak as I was scared to be hit again, and that's when he gestured to the huge man that was standing in the corner of the room. "Ivan, it's time to begin." And as the huge man picked up a cage, I started to count down the last moments of sanity I was going to have that night. The creature in the box squealed as it was taken out, and when they brought it closer, I could see that it was a huge gutter rat. The animal struggled, but it was hopeless as the man began to pull it apart. It didn't take long before it tore in two. The man walked up to me with the carcass of the dead rat. I tried to run, but that was when I realized I was restrained. He finally reached me and tried to force the carcass down my throat. I screamed and resisted, which led him to hit me. My vision had become blurry, and I felt them force my mouth open and force the furry carcass down my throat. No words can ever describe what I felt, but I felt like I was tasting hell itself, as different things that I assumed were the organs of the animal rolled down my throat. I began to vomit profusely, but that didn't stop them, as they just continued right after. It took 30 hellish minutes for it to be over, and I just stayed there quiet, as I had lost all zeal to fight. They untied me and took me to a small room where they kept me. I threw up all night, and I laid there in my vomit. Every night for the next week, I was taken to eat another animal, from sloths to puppies to little birds. Each one was worse than the last. It didn't take long before I began to feel ill. It was on what I assumed to be Friday. I started hearing loud noises from outside, followed by, "It's the police!" Hope filled me, and I was about to say, "I'm here." I began to convulse. The last thing I remember that night was being surrounded by cops as I finally passed out. I woke up in the hospital to see my mom, a doctor, and my neighbor all standing around me. The doctor began to tell me how lucky I was, as a lot of harmful bacteria like salmonella and listeria that are normally found in raw meat were found in my system. I asked my mom how the cops found me, and she said my neighbor had noticed I had been missing for a few days and had called the cops, which led them to track my phone. I thanked my neighbor, Mr. Matt, for saving my life. Some cops then walked in and asked me some questions, and I told them everything I knew. They then told me that I was lucky, as over 70 women were found in the warehouse, and half of them were dead. They said the case was still ongoing, and they were trying to get to the bottom of it. At that moment, I knew to myself that there was nothing they could do, as over 15 million people out there were true eaters. And there was nothing anyone could do to fix that. It's been 6 years since this incident. I moved back in with my mom, and even with all the therapy, nothing can ever take away that trauma. I can't eat right, as I only eat when it's necessary. I also can't look at animals right, because every time I see a dog or a cat, while people see the beauty and the cuteness of these animals, all I really see are their insides.